Good morning, Unity of Hilton Head, and all those who are watching the service today. My name is Reverend Ogun Holder, and I'll be serving as your guest minister today. I am the co-founder of Project Sanctus, a safe and brave online community where together we discover, uncover, embrace, and live our holiest selves. And in so doing, we create a world of equanimity, justice, and love for all. I'm a good friend of Reverend Therese Lee, and she invited me here to come speak with you on Father's Day because she knows I am the world's greatest dad. My daughter made this shirt for me, I don't know, probably when she was in preschool. She's 20 years old right now, and I still hold on to this shirt as just a wonderful memento of that time in her life and the bond that we share. Let us begin today with a centering prayer. So if you are comfortable, I invite you to gently close the eyes. Take a deep breath, perhaps place a hand on the heart to help center you. And in this moment, we give thanks for the divine truth of who we are. We are made from love, we are made of love, and we are made to be love. So today, on a day where we honor fathers, we also honor perhaps the challenging side of fatherhood. We honor those who may have difficult relationships with their fathers. We honor fathers who may have challenging relationships with their children. We honor those who may have never known their fathers. We honor those who struggle to be fathers. We honor those who have stepped in to be fathers for children who are biologically not their own. And we honor those who play the role of fathers and role models for those who are not their family. We honor all aspects of fatherhood and the divine Father within each and every one of us. We are grateful for this time together, and so it is, and so we let it be. So I'd like to invite those of you who are watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching this later, just drop a quick note in the Facebook chat box. Tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, and if you have any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in there as well, and either Reverend Therese or a prayer chaplain will respond. So as I said in my opening prayer and my introduction, it is Father's Day, and I'd like to begin by sharing a little bit about my history of fatherhood, and that begins with my relationship with my own father. He was a person who, when I was a small child, I absolutely adored and idolized. He was this larger-than-life figure who seemed to know everything. He was funny. He loved music. I think he instilled my love of music. I'm a musician as well. And he had a massive record collection. And it was very eclectic, from Bob Marley to the Bee Gees, and inexplicably, probably every record that Kenny Rogers ever put out in that time. I'm originally from Barbados, and it makes it all the more, bizarre that country music was big in the 70s and 80s. Still a little bit now, but you can go to Barbados now and walk through a grocery store, and you will hear Kenny Rogers playing through the loudspeakers. It's a little weird, but this was my upbringing. And something happened when I turned 11. I turned 11 and suddenly our relationship shifted a little bit. He felt that in his eyes I was becoming older, and I think he wanted to hurry my maturing and said, I'm becoming a young man now, and suddenly he stopped treating me as a child. It was an abrupt shift and one I wasn't prepared for. And it affected me a lot. I missed the man and the relationship that we had. Then as I got older, into my late teens and early 20s, as I became more of an adult, our relationship shifted and it resumed more of a peer relationship, and we could talk as adults, and that was enjoyable in another way. But then that didn't last too long because of my sophomore year of college in 1995. My father suffered a horrific traumatic brain injury as the result of a robbery and attempted murder on his life. He was in a coma for days, and when he woke up, for a while his memory was gone. He didn't remember who my mother, my brother was. They were home at the time. I was in the US in college, and eventually his memory came back, but who he was did not. He was forever changed, emotionally, mentally. It was just not the same person, and someone who we had to learn to be with was left behind. Someone who was mostly angry and verbally abusive, and someone who didn't want to have a relationship with us, his immediate family. I lost my father in so many ways that year. And then to compound it, the following year, while taking a course in college about the origin and history of the Bible and Christianity, I had a huge crisis of faith. It was a crisis of faith that pulled me out of Christianity for a while, and I stopped going to church. It left me spiraling, reeling, and confused. And in that year, I lost my spiritual father because I looked to God and my understanding of God at that time as my father in heaven. And I lost him too. In the course of 2 years, I lost my earthly father and my spiritual father. I was lost for a little bit, and then thankfully in 1997, thanks to my late wife, Reverend Jennifer Holder, Unity Minister and classmate of Reverend Therese Lee and Reverend Therese's late husband Tom, I found unity. And I remember my very first unity meeting. It was a book group, a midweek book study of Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsh. And even though I'd been out of church for a good year and a half, and wasn't embracing Christianity nearly as much as I grew up to believe it, I didn't have anything that stood in its place. So to walk into a book group and hear a conversation around the fact that there's only heaven, there's no hell, and according to Conversations with God, even Hitler's in heaven, I said to myself, this must be one of those weird cults they warned us about in Sunday school growing up. It was a very bizarre idea to embrace. But yet, as I stuck around, and make no mistake, I stuck around for the girl. I was falling madly in love, and when you're in love, you do things. So I stuck around for her. But those teachings of unity, this different way to approach spirituality, a different way to see and understand God, stuck with me. It embedded itself in me. So much so to the point I've embraced the teachings, and I went to seminary and became a unity minister because I felt this was a teaching that I was called to share in so many ways. In unity over the years, I learned that the earthly father that I lost and the spiritual father that I lost were nothing compared to my own divine parentage. What I mean by that is, within each and every one of us are the energies of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. If you read the Old Testament, in Genesis, God said, let us create man, human, in our own image. So male and female, he created them. God created them. In the image of God, therefore, there is the energy of the feminine and the masculine. It is who we are. It is our essence. And it doesn't matter our gender. Gender or sexual orientation has nothing to do with this blend of energies within us. When we think of the divine feminine, we think of a more spiritual and psychological archetype of feminine energy, which is kindness, generosity, wisdom, support, intuition, nurturing, healing. Uh, Divine feminine energy represents growth, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. It represents not just growth, but creation and birthing. Every time we have an idea or a business you want to start, or anytime there's some artistic endeavor we are expressing in the world, it is the divine feminine energy that not just propels that, but from which that emerges. And then complement to that is the divine masculine. Okay, and that's the archetype ideal of masculine energy, logic, rationality, strength, leadership. A person who's living their divine masculine is strong but gentle. They are an appropriate guidance and leadership. Person you would want to follow, confident but not arrogant, adventurous but not reckless. You feel safe and you feel supported in their presence. And again, this is not man or woman. This is energies, divine masculine, divine feminine, that we all possess. So today on Father's Day, I want to draw a little maybe more attention to that divine masculine in us, but to make sure to be clear that we have to balance them both in order to be a whole expression of the divine that we are. So as we draw attention to those divine masculine qualities or energies within us, let us realize that as we express those, cultivate those, lean into those in many ways, this is our own inner fatherhood that we are bringing into being. As I mentioned in my opening prayer, some of us have challenging relationships with our fathers. I explained mine, and to this day, we don't have much of a relationship because of his mental inabilities to. I mentioned that night that he was attacked, in many ways, the man who we all knew and loved was taken from us. We still love him, but it's a different him. One that, because of his mental faculties right now, is unable to truly love us back in a way that would foster deeper connection. In many ways, our relationship to our fatherhood experience in this world is very connected to grief. Some of you have lost your fathers. Some of you have lost the relationship you used to have with your father. Some of you have fathers are maybe disconnected from your children. We celebrate days like Father's Day and Mother's Day, and often don't take the time to acknowledge the challenge that it is for some of us. So in many ways, when we honor the inner divine masculine and balance it with the inner divine feminine, what we're doing is becoming more centered, more balanced as an individual, but also as a parent figure. We heal our own inner parental wounds, whether it's wounds that were inflicted upon us by our parents because they were who they were, trying to do the best that they knew how to do, and they were imperfect. They were struggling with their own wounds as well. So when we look to truly connecting with our inner divine masculine and feminine, we are beginning to heal those wounds. It is what has allowed me to better navigate the grief of the loss of my own father as I knew him when I was growing up. And it allows me to find a better way to embrace who he is now, without the attachment or the need to try to recreate the relationship we had when we were younger. And because I'm in this place, it allows me to be a better father to my daughter. I am not trying to recreate, project my desires for a lost fatherhood onto her. My healing has allowed me to be a better parent and father figure. Which is good because the relationship with my daughter has really evolved over the years. Those of you who have adult children, you know I'm talking about. You remember fondly the days when they would bring home shirts like this from preschool and kindergarten and run and hug you and jump on your lap, and now she's in college and I'll be lucky if I get a return from my text or call 2 or 3 days later. We all know how that goes. She's an adult now. No, she's becoming an adult now. She thinks she's an adult now. She's just beginning to learn and embrace the fun of adulting, as she calls it. She's like, can I take this back? I'm like, sorry, sweetie, this is how it rolls. We've all been there. But we've had a relationship over the years where, because of my healing and ongoing healing from my relationship with my parents, I could be a more balanced parent, one who could create boundaries with my daughter, but still allow her the freedom within those boundaries to discover who her divine expression needed to be. And it's a dancer. She's an amazing dancer and in college studying dance. There was a sort of weird relationship that I had with my parents where on many levels I was afraid of them, because what they were taught as parents was compliance came by corporal punishment and threats. And I decided I wanted to be a more loving-based parent by getting in touch with that divine masculine of leading from a more heart-centered place. So I have a different relationship with my daughter, and one that, as it changes rapidly, I'm learning to accept and learning to be with and learning to enjoy. That the same child who made this wonderful handprint t-shirt before she could even write letters is now one who just sent me an amazing paper on queer representation in the dance world. And we could talk about it as peers and as an adult to an adult. And it's beautiful. And while I can honor the sadness of the child and preteen that she no longer is, I can embrace the amazing adult that she is becoming, because this is the nature of life. Pema Chodron talks about life as things falling apart and coming together and falling apart and coming together again. And the more we learn to accept that and not struggle against it, the more we accept ourselves in that flow. We speak in Unity a lot about divine order, how things come into being. But there's also an element of divine disorder. The things that come into being have a life cycle, and they break away. They fall apart. But energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It just transforms from one form to another, right? If you know any physics, that's a core principle of physics. I don't believe it works the same way for spiritual energy, any kind of energy. So with the order and the disorder, then there comes a reordering of things coming back together. And a lot of our struggle is that we don't trust that reordering is going to come, or we want to know what it's going to look like before it happens. And this is a lot of the suffering that we encounter when we are grieving any kind of loss. We want to know when it's going to resolve, how it's going to resolve, what's it going to look like. So many of us struggled with grief over the last year because of COVID, whether we lost friends or family or loved ones to COVID, or we're just part of the existential grief of so many lives that have been lost and ways of life that was lost. And now as we are reopening and coming back together, many of us are struggling in a whole new way. Because we may feel this pressure to get back to what was before. Well, it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. It's okay if we are beginning to grieve perhaps some of the ways of being that and life that we began to embrace during the time of COVID. So we need not struggle with this. We simply take a breath and accept that things fall apart, they come together. Allow ourselves to rely on the balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine to keep us centered, to keep us grounded. This is who we are. This is who we are called to be. So on this Father's Day, recognizing that divine energy of the masculine within us, let us remember to complement that with the divine feminine energy within us as well, so that we can be more centered, so that we can be more healed, we can be more whole. And now invite us into a time of meditation. Again, if you are comfortable, gently close the eyes. If you are not, keep them open and perhaps find a spot a few feet ahead of you and just gaze softly at it. And for a few moments, just notice the sounds around you. Take a quick look around to see what's in your space. Notice all the external things. And see them and hear them not as distractions, but rather reminders of what's happening in this present moment with you. And now begin to notice your body. Notice if there are any points of discomfort. Notice if there are any points of pressure, tightness. Just notice what's going on in your body, and don't notice with any judgment or resistance or wish that it wasn't happening. Just notice that it is. And again, seeing what's happening in your body not as a distraction, but also a reminder that it is existing with you now in this present moment, and you can feel what's happening now in this present moment. Because meditation is simply an invitation to come fully and wholly present to yourself. So as you get more comfortable and allow your body to settle in and relax, let us turn the attention to our breath and feel the gentle inflow and outflow of breath. You don't need to breathe any slower or any faster than you were before. Just make sure it's steady and deep. Noticing even the points of stillness between the inflow and the outflow of breath. Just breathe. Let us breathe together for a few moments. And should you become distracted by a sound, a sensation in the body, a random thought or memory or emotion, just notice it without judgment, without wishing it weren't there. Just notice it and then return your attention to the breath. Let us breathe for a few moments as we become more centered in this present moment. And as we breathe, we allow our hearts to open with gratitude for the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies that are the essence of who we are. Today on Father's Day, we focus our attention on the divine masculine within each and every one of us that allows us to be that grounded presence of strength, of purpose. That allow us to be the presence of God, of Spirit, of all that is, in the lives of others and for ourselves. As we invoke and evoke that divine masculine energy, we allow it to heal all our wounded places connected with our own fathers and our own fatherin. So let us rest in the silence of this for a few moments. And with another deep breath, we bring our attention back to wakefulness and to each other. And so it is. And so we let it be. Thank you for allowing me to share this time and my story with you. And if my talk or any talk that you've ever heard at Unity of Hilton Head has served you in some ways, please feel it in your heart to make a donation at unityofhiltonhead.org. You can make a donation through credit card, through PayPal, and as Reverend Teresa said many times, she loves her snail mails. If you want to write her a check and send it in the mail, you can do that too. The address is on the website. Thank you for your ongoing support of this spiritual community. Happy Father's Day to all of you who are, again, our fathers, who have served in the capacity as a father for someone else. For all of you who have also lost your fathers, a moment of love goes out to you for the absence in your life. You can learn more about me and what I do at projectsanctus.com or revoganholder.com. I look forward to being with you some other time in the future. So until we meet again, goodbye.